Story 1. Retaining obscure facts and knowledge. I tend to zone out frequently, but my brain has a way of focusing in regardless, storing random information. Then, when it comes up on a quiz or game show, I somehow know the answer to the most random questions, but I have no idea how I know it or where I learned it from. Story 2. Bowling. I have never practiced and play maybe once every few years during a party night out, but I am really good at it. I have no idea why. Story 3. Understanding people is something I have been told since a young age. I made it my career and became a psychologist. Story 4. Catching things I drop. I can't catch a ball to save my life, but I can strangely catch anything I drop. Story 5. Anything involving patterns to solve problems or understand situations is valuable. Mathematics is included as well. I recently discovered I have ADHD at the age of 45. Story 6. I have an extremely fast reading speed. I have never taken a speed reading course or consciously tried to improve it. It has just always been this way since I was a child. Story 7. I can translate programmers to upper management. Programmers understand upper management well, but are often unable or unwilling to communicate in a way that is easily understood by upper management. Story 8. I remember every social mistake I have made throughout my life with clear recall. Story 9. Balancing grinding wheels. I work in a machine shop, and we must balance the grinding wheels before mounting them on the machines. Most people take 2 to 3 attempts before achieving fully balanced wheels. I consistently achieve 100% balance on the first try. Story 10. I am proficient at reading people. It's like a superpower, and I sometimes surprise myself. It requires effort, but if someone angers me, I can analyze them in a way that reveals their insecurities. Conversely, I also know how to uplift others and make them feel good about themselves. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and I believe it is somehow connected. Has anyone else had this experience? Story 11. Gradius 3 on Super Nintendo. I don't know why. It's not like I practiced a lot. It just kind of clicked for me. I wish that was true of a more useful skill. Story 12. Understanding what people say can be challenging. I had a classmate with a speech impediment, and I often had to translate everything she said for others. I experienced the same situation with immigrant coworkers who had strong accents. Story 13. Emit fart sounds with my hands. I am just good at it. I have not trained for this. I happen to have the perfect hand shape and moisture for it. Now this is a true superpower. Story 14. Knowing how other people are feeling. I can tell when someone is in a bad mood mostly by their body language, but also by their tone of voice and the way they speak. I've also noticed changes in texting habits, which have indicated how someone is feeling. However, that could just be pattern recognition. Many other people notice things like this, but most of them developed the skill due to a traumatic childhood or an abusive relationship, which I have not experienced. I think it might be my autism trying to overcompensate, but I have never been officially diagnosed, so who knows? Story 15. I am often described as the sweetest guy ever. It may sound like humble bragging, but I assure you it's not. I see myself as somewhat irritable and prickly, so it surprises me that I have a reputation for being kind. I am also physically strong simply because I am tall and big. I didn't really cultivate my strength. I just experienced a growth spurt in high school and have held active jobs since then. I'm not a great dancer, but when I participate in community theater, they often have me lift people in the performances. Story 16. I am a low-key decent comedian when I get into a certain headspace. I found myself entertaining some people I just met, and I had one person laughing hard. However, it's not intentional and it doesn't happen all the time. It's strange. Story 17. Getting people to talk is unintentionally disarming. However, I struggle with keeping their secrets. Story 18. The one-handed clapping technique involves rapidly flicking your fingers against your palm to create a sound. I can do it naturally, but many people find it strange and are unable to replicate it. Story 19. Painting with acrylic and watercolor is something we do 1 or 2 times a year during paint nights. Participants often express their enthusiasm, saying they want to take a class from me as the instructor. I don't practice and I'm not formally trained, but it comes naturally. In contrast, I took guitar lessons for years and always struggled with it. Story 20. Cooking began as a necessity, but I continued because I love it. 15 years later, I rarely find restaurants that do it better than I can. Story 21. Mixing a perfect paint color on the first try is ideal. For example, if I want to achieve the exact shade of sky blue, I should know which colors to mix to get the right shade immediately. Story 22. People appreciate my ability to listen well. It's surprisingly easy if you struggle to contribute to a conversation initially. Story 23. Being functional while under the influence is harmful. And cooking, which my wife loves. Story 24. Fixing things. I have tried my hand at electrical work, plumbing, computers, and cars. Despite feeling frustrated at times, I always manage to fix them. Story 25. I can tell if food is from Costco or Sam's Club by tasting it. I do not have memberships to either. It is my most useless talent. Story 26. I have paranoid schizophrenia, and my facial expressions inspire fear in others. I have sat down in an empty train many times, and as people get on, they avoid sitting near me to the point that a six-seater is just mine because I am sitting here normally looking out the window. This has a silver lining. 2 of my brothers have been mugged, but no one has ever dared to approach me. It is a sad world we live in, but it is the life I am stuck with. Story 27. Hearing high pitches and perfectly timing an entire 4-person dinner judging only by how it smells and looks. Story 28. Being charming to other people's mothers. I have no idea why, but every time I meet the parents of a friend or girlfriend, their mothers think I'm wonderful. Story 29. Improvising and adapting to different scenarios. I get bored easily, so my mind found a way to stay entertained and stimulated. Story 30. Lying in the moment without others knowing, and also faking believable emotions is great because I'm depressed and extremely apathetic, but I can make it look like I'm not. Story 31. I excel at most tasks the first time I attempt them. This often frustrates individuals who hold biased views, as it makes me appear exceptionally capable. However, the reality is that I reach a plateau quickly or progress at a slower pace. Therefore, if I compete against mostly inexperienced individuals, I have a good chance of succeeding. When faced with specialized talent, however, I tend to fall behind. While I possess a broad range of skills, none are developed to a significant depth. The advantage of this is my ability to transfer knowledge across various skills, allowing me to learn new ones rapidly. Instead of delving deeply into a single skill, I continuously acquire more. This pattern has been unintentional throughout my life. I also enjoy creatively solving problems and providing innovative solutions that draw on diverse knowledge. Nevertheless, I often daydream about creating projects that would require me to focus on developing more specialized skills. I realize that to achieve some of these goals, I will need to adjust my approach. Story 32. Remembering faces. Listening. Making others comfortable. A long time ago. Story 33. Apparently, I am perceived as the one that got away to people I never dated or had any romantic relationship with. Story 34. I have a good memory for what people tell me, to the point where I often pretend I don't know something about someone to avoid looking overly obsessed with them. Story 35. I can create a short, concise, and comprehensible summary on almost any topic very quickly. I gather the information in my mind, and my brain produces an abridged version instantly. This is beneficial in my corporate job, where people often use lengthy metaphors and unnecessary euphemisms, which can lead to confusion. I provide a quick summary or explanation, and everyone understands, allowing us to move forward. Story 36. Building things and troubleshooting technology is often less expected for women. Story 37. Gardening. I seem to struggle with houseplants. However, I have an upset neighbor who cannot grow avocados and is planning to attack my thriving avocado trees. My mom rolls her eyes at my vegetable garden and constantly asks what I do. I have no idea. I just throw things in and water when I remember. Story 38. I believe I can be moderately funny when I'm relaxed and comfortable in my surroundings. People say I have a limited filter, which sometimes leads me to say things that are considered unexpected and raw. I'm not sure if this is true, but I enjoy making people laugh, not by trying to tell a joke, but through my observations and analysis of the things I find noteworthy. Story 39. Printing. As a cartoonist who never used a computer until the late 1990s, I initially did not create work digitally. I had to learn to print. Story 40. Spreadsheets. Pivot tables still confuse me, but I have built various useful tools in Excel for work and home. I even ran a Dungeons and Dragons campaign for my wife and children, using spreadsheets for everything except the combat maps. I enjoy wondering if Excel can accomplish a task, discovering that it can, and then utilizing that capability to benefit me. Story 41. Triggering trauma dumps. I know a lot about many strangers. If I could write, I would have a wealth of material. Story 42. Finger drumming. I am very skilled at it. I played drums for years but stopped due to tinnitus. I drum my fingers every day and have been doing so for about 25 years. Story 43. Super Smash Brothers. I don't know why, and I don't even own or particularly like the game. Whenever I go to a friend's house who has it, we play, and I almost always win somehow. I couldn't beat a professional player, though. Story 44. Driving. I experienced one minor accident when I was 16, but nothing in the 30 years since then, while driving approximately 30,000 miles each year. You would never know it if you observed my wife as a passenger, as she is constantly bracing for impact when someone breaks a quarter of a mile ahead. Story 45. I have no interest in trade work, but I possess a wealth of knowledge in various areas, except for electrical work. Story 46. Being liked and having people want to be around me is interesting, especially since I am quite introverted. However, people tend to gravitate towards me. Story 47. I am unintentionally skilled at recognizing patterns in conversations and remembering details about people, even when they do not expect it. This ability helps me provide personalized advice and make connections between things they have mentioned before. Story 48. Being a kind-hearted person, I always help others, but I tend to get hurt easily when I become attached. I have been going to therapy and learning that people like me often feel the most hurt. While it is sad, it is also good to hear. I wear my emotions on my sleeve, and I don't plan on changing my behavior. Story 49. I only write to release complicated emotions. It is my way of rationalizing thoughts that are beyond my understanding. More often than not, these thoughts relate to love, which is the only thing I need and have never truly had. Story 50. I can back a trailer in anywhere. I drive a 1-ton truck and feel like I know exactly where the corners of the vehicle are, allowing me to squeeze it in wherever needed. I haven't had a ticket or an accident in over 20 years and have never accidentally backed into a bollard or tree in my life. I can operate any forklift. Even though I don't normally drive one, when there's something tricky that needs to be done at work, the team comes to get me to handle it. I'm not formally trained in anything, but I went to a go-kart place a couple of months ago and managed to achieve the fastest lap of the day. Driving just comes easily and naturally to me. Story 51. At arguing, both in the work environment and in personal life, something clicks when the situation gets heated, and I feel alive. Story 52. For some reason, I can point to exactly where someone's nipple is without fail. It is easily the most useless skill I know of. Story 53. Noticing when people get new glasses. Every time I compliment someone on their new glasses, 9 times out of 10, they say I am the first person to notice. Story 54. Well, my heart has been beating and I have been breathing for a long time now, and I never intentionally planned either. Story 55. My sense of direction is very good. I can quickly determine my location, the direction I need to go, or where a place is. Story 56. Guesstimating subtractions and additions of decimals and fractions. They often ask me at work, "Hey, what's this minus these two fractions? Plus 0.60. I say something like, I think it's around 11, May 8th and one more 32nd, but let me get the calculator. My coworker or boss will just go with that number. I have told them numerous times something like, "You know I haven't actually done the math, right?" Even the boss will say things like, "Yeah, but you haven't been wrong yet." The thing is, I have been wrong, but always in an easy way where they can just adjust a little bit more and reach the dimension they need. But apparently, that doesn't count as wrong. Story 57. I am unsure if I would describe it as unintentional, but I am naturally good at math. I hardly needed to study for differential equations in college when the subject was purely mathematical. I was always a top math student before college as well. The debate about whether it is intentional or not arises because I take classes to learn and need the content for my major, so there is an intention to learn. Story 58. Talking to people. I attended college, was an avid reader growing up, and performed well in debate class. Early on, I learned I could navigate conversations effectively. Some days, this ability is seen as a talent. Other days, I am unsure. I have never enjoyed selling products to people unless I believed they would genuinely benefit from them. This skill often leads to being called in at the last minute to resolve issues. That might not seem bad, but it can make you feel more like a tool than a person. My neighbor, a retired police chief, suggested that when I retire, I should consider training in negotiation to assist in civilian support programs. I probably will. Story 59. I learned yesterday from my new boss that they appreciate my presence when interacting with their supervisor because I sound confident when speaking to those in higher positions. I never knew. Story 60. Remembering things can be challenging. When you explain a solution to a problem, it tends to stick in my mind for a long time, making it easy to recall. However, if I am asked to come up with the solution independently, I often lack the creativity to do so. Story 61. Ever since I was a kid, I could mimic people's voices, noises, and even songs perfectly on key, like a recording. I just hate doing it. Story 62. Public speaking. In middle school, I convinced myself that no one listens to what I am saying, and ever since then, it hasn't bothered me. I can go on and on about any topic, whether it's 5 minutes or 50 minutes. I'll just freestyle it, and it always sounds good. I have delivered 3 best man speeches off the top of my head, without any thought beforehand. I just wing it. I have no idea how or why I can do it. Story 63. Wasting time. No amount of awareness has been able to change that. Getting dogs to love me. I really don't try that hard, but here I am, walking around the house like the Pied Piper. Story 64. I look very harmless, bland, and like an office worker. I am the type who is always just waved through checkpoints, walks past receptions without questions, and enters secure sites by walking quickly and looking purposeful. I am the ultimate gray man. Story 65. When I was in 9th grade, my mom encouraged me to join the speech and debate team, thinking it would help me with college applications. Turned out I was quite good at it. I believe she regretted getting me to join once I was constantly away late at night and on weekends for tournaments and state and national championships. Story 66. Job interviews. I feel that my career has advanced quickly because I have been fortunate to possess strong interviewing skills. In about 4 years, I have progressed from an engineering position at $55,000 to the same position in another company for $63,000, then to the same position in yet another company for $87,000, and finally to a manager position at a different company for $110,000. Story 67. A lot of my friends tell me that my #1 charm is how unintentionally funny I am. It's hard to believe it when I have a resting face. Story 68. Having really crazy things happen to me. Since ChatGPT is a thing, I can finally start calculating odds, as math has never been my strength. I now have definitive proof that I am an outlier in some ways. You can only experience 1 in 100 million odds so many times before you begin to question the universe about what is going on. Story 69. Understanding the history of technology and its significance is a unique blend of knowing historical facts and current research and development. It's like weaving a pattern in my head. Story 70. I do not have perfect pitch, but I am exceptionally good at any rhythm game I play, as long as it doesn't require clicking skills, such as in OSU. Story 71. Estimating the exact number of items I need is becoming common. For instance, when I grab a random amount of hangers to hang my clothes, it often turns out to be just enough. This occurrence happens frequently enough to suggest it's not just coincidence. Story 72. Extreme focus under extreme pressure. I have no idea where it came from, but the more stress I am under, the better decisions I make and the faster I make them. This ability has made me very successful in my career. I could have been a doctor or pursued another important path, but I wasted my early years drinking and partying. Story 73. Remembering birthdays can make people feel awkward because they may not remember mine or may not think we are that close. Story 74. I am always looking for ways to streamline my work processes because I prefer not to waste time. I do this so well that supervisors over the years have told me I work too fast. Now, in my 30s, I have discovered that I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and I tend to hyperfocus on anything I am working on. Story 75. Event planning is an example of being highly skilled at something while not considering it a strength. I excel at it, but I dislike doing it. Therefore, it is not something I intend to leverage for my income or work unless absolutely necessary. Story 76. Sales. I want to do anything else. I can't find a job. Even when I thought I had found one, it turned out they wanted me to sell. Story 77. I've had impeccable handwriting ever since I was a little kid. Some of it is due to my attention to detail, but I've always naturally had nearly perfect handwriting, whether standard or cursive. However, I can't draw well, which is a bit disappointing. Story 78. Due to chat rooms in the past, I type around 150 words per minute on the entire keyboard. I have no idea how fast I read, but it is quick. Story 79. Axe throwing. I don't know why or how I gained this skill, but I am naturally good at it. Unfortunately, it does not translate to darts. Story 80. I found that not only are these abilities useless, but they are also deemed annoying by others. Story 81. I am a great teacher. Don't ask me why, but it seems I always know how to explain things. Even if I don't know the subject, I can read the instructions and rephrase the information in a way that better suits the other person. Story 82. Math. I never pay attention, yet I am still doing better than all my classmates. Granted, it's job school, but still. Story 83. Apparently, bringing women to orgasm 4 times within 25 minutes is something to be proud of. I guess I have a strong tongue. Story 84. Sitting for a tattoo appointment. I never gave it much thought. However, my tattoo artist told me yesterday that I am one of his favorite people to tattoo because I sat very well for a sensitive area on the back of my thigh, right above the knee. Story 85. Looking good. Not to brag, but I always look fresh and clean, no matter how unwell I am or if I'm hungover. I don't try or take good care of myself at all, yet I always receive compliments. I smoke and drink too much, I don't sleep enough, I don't engage in sports, I'm always looking at a screen, and I don't eat very healthily. Yet I always look good, and it has been this way for over a decade. On many occasions, even friends and family have not believed me when I said I was sick because I don't look like it. It's a cursed blessing, I guess. Story 86. Math. I say this because I absolutely despise doing math with every fiber of my being, yet for some reason I can't seem to mess it up. Story 87. Being able to recognize when someone has a new haircut, even if I have only met them once, is enjoyable. The fun part is telling them, it's a good look, I like it, and making them feel good. Story 88. Target practice. I surprised my father at 15 by hitting almost all the cans when he showed me how to use a toy gun that shoots small plastic balls. During the few times I have played laser tag, I consistently score in the top percentage for accuracy. I am nothing spectacular when it comes to throwing balls. I am just average. Story 89. Accepting that we all will eventually die, it is important to enjoy life while we can, even if it may not matter in the grand scheme of things. Story 90. Creating metaphors, I suppose. I often think of ways to summarize a situation or concept into a metaphor on the spot, and people frequently react as if it's unusual. Story 91. Seeing potential problems in the process. I don't know why, but I can see things that my peers and superiors do not. This has led to my success at work, thankfully. Story 92. Picking the perfect size Tupperware container for leftovers is essential. It should be filled to the brim without any spillover or gaps. Story 93. Making food that I won't touch. I used to be a cook and was complimented most on Reuben's, liver and onions, and split pea soup. Story 94. I am a product designer who started as a graphic designer. While building my portfolio, I took technical writing jobs to pay my bills. During those years, I earned numerous awards in technical writing within the software and consumer electronics industries. Initially, I enjoyed the recognition, but I eventually realized that I do not like technical writing very much. I have a knack for organizing and connecting information, and I love to read, so I developed some writing skills along the way. I would trade all my plaques and trophies to go back in time and attend a proper design college as I should have. Story 95. Seeing things. In my mid to late 40s, during my last eye test, my optometrist said, "I'm done testing you. Now I'm just curious," and continued to perform additional tests. I have 20/10 vision and the retinas of a 20-year-old, which she says is exceptionally rare, especially after 40. Story 96. I'm really great with children. I don't know why, but they find me naturally entertaining and fun. Anytime I am in a place with kids, they all seem to flock around me. Unfortunately for me, I don't particularly like children, so it can be a nightmare. Story 97. I am a lash technician, so I use tweezers in both hands all day to perform tedious and intentional movements. I discovered that I am now quite good with chopsticks as a result. Story 98. Apparently, I am skilled at handling people in distress and grief. It is surprising since I have never had anyone teach me how to manage my own emotions. Story 99. I am proficient with a firearm because my uncle took us shooting every weekend while growing up. I dislike guns, but I could likely outperform you at shooting skeet. Story 100. Retaining statistics, unique pop culture references, and historical facts. If I ever competed on Jeopardy, I could make a significant impact. Story 101. Troubleshooting and fixing random technology problems for my family. Is the printer not working? Is the Wi-Fi broken? It always falls on me. I excel at searching for solutions, finding the right fix, and following instructions. Story 102. Sports. I love sports and have always been active, but whenever I try a new sport for the first time, I discover that I am quite good at it, even if it is a sport I never liked. Story 103. Retaining the information I actually need. Now, knowing the tune or lyrics to a song that plays, regardless of whether I haven't heard it in years or have only heard it a few times. That's something I excel at. Story 104. I am skilled at lying. I primarily use it to avoid events and obligations, so it's not something I do for immoral personal gain. Story 105. I can accurately pour liquids. My partner tested it once, and I poured the exact same amount into 2 different sized cups. Story 106. Now this is going to sound horrible, but I do not use it for malicious purposes. Manipulating people seems to be something I am good at. I guess it is more about having an understanding of people and what they want to hear. I am a kind and nonviolent person by nature and a bit shy, so maybe that is a factor. I noticed this ability a few years ago when reflecting on myself and doing some introspection. It has scared me a bit and made me wonder if I have a tendency to be a psychopath, so I stay away from it. Story 107. Marketing. I have promoted my husband's shop and my mother's store. Each time I did it, they received a lot of customers. I enjoy making the advertisements engaging. Story 108. I read a lot, so you can place me in any crowd, and I will be able to hold my own. Story 109. I worked in excavation for a few years after high school. I learned that I was skilled in operating heavy equipment, particularly in environments requiring strict control. However, I didn't possess the logic and reasoning that many operators had, which affected my efficiency. In 2.5 years, I progressed from a laborer to a dozer or excavator operator, depending on the day. I enjoyed the work, but toxic superintendents ultimately led me to resign. Story 110. Knowing unusual information. Saying inappropriate things in social situations. Determining the outcomes of plans once I understand the system's limitations. Self-sabotage. Choosing the wrong person for a relationship. Story 111. Getting plus-sized women to love me has been a skill since I was a teenager. If you are a size 5 or lower, you are automatically attracted to me. There is no chance with sizes 6 to 10. The higher the body mass index, the more likely I am your type. Story 112. Dream interpretation. I stopped doing it because I was making near strangers and friends uncomfortable. I will still do it for very close friends if they ask. Story 113. Retaining knowledge about history has always been effortless for me. I never had to study for history class in school. Specific dates became easily memorable. My interest in the subject developed later in life, and it just seemed to come naturally. In terms of artistic endeavors, I have discovered that I possess some aptitude for various visual art media. However, attempting to pursue art as a career diminished the enjoyment I once found in it. Story 114. Seeing the worst possible outcome and bracing myself for it. I truly appreciate the combination of autism, ADHD, and anxiety. Story 115. Understanding basic electrical systems, plumbing, auto body mechanics, and electronic repairs. Story 116. Getting so far in the friend zone that not even Vasco da Gama, the Thomas brothers, and Magellan can help me get out. Story 117. I tend to notice things others don't, and I'm aware of my surroundings. Most people around me don't care enough to do that. Story 118. Making grown men cry. I noticed in my late 20s that I often bonded quickly with men, and they seemed to feel safe with me. Conversations often turned very personal, leading to emotional releases. I ended up working with men in jail or on probation, and now I am a therapist. Sometimes they cried because I broke their hearts, and my dad often cried because I was a challenging teenager. Story 119. My job just clicks with my brain somehow. I have no degree and somehow wandered into a career where everyone around me has multiple degrees, yet I usually earn more than them because I understand the process much better. It's the easiest work I have ever done, and it pays a significant amount. Story 120. I know the routes to most areas of my city and the surrounding suburbs. I used to be a local truck driver, but not anymore. Sometimes I just want someone or a GPS to handle it. Story 121. Physics and mathematics are not just subjects I excel in. They are integral to how I think. My brain is wired to perceive the world in this way. I often find myself calculating various concepts, such as kinetic energy, thermodynamics, and astrophysics. Additionally, I am skilled at explaining these topics, simplifying complex ideas into layman's terms, or using analogies to aid understanding. Story 122. Directions and location awareness. I can always retrace my steps and never need to look up directions more than once. Story 123. Packing and organizing has become second nature to me, likely because I play a lot of Tetris. I can gauge where items will fit, and I often surprise others with my accuracy when they think things won't fit. They usually end up amazed when they try it. Additionally, I have a unique talent for dealing cards. I'm very precise and quick, probably also a skill developed from playing Tetris. Story 124. Not being able to remember important things while having a mind full of worthless trivia and Saturday Night Live references. Story 125. Remembering film and television quotes and feeling annoyed when people quote them incorrectly, yet being too polite to correct them. Story 126. Literally anything creative or crafty. I haven't had to work very hard to learn new skills except for learning how to draw. I started crocheting less than a month ago, and I have already created 2 of my own patterns. I took up embroidery a few months ago, and it felt too easy. The same goes for origami. I didn't know how to paint well, but last summer break, I decided I wanted to paint a face, and I did. It didn't look exactly like the model, but it turned out pretty realistic. However, this is the only area where I'm skilled. When it comes to studying and things that truly matter, I am a bit slow. Story 127. Reporting labor law violations and tax evaders to state and federal agencies. Family-owned businesses dislike me. Story 128. Choking on rice and getting it in my nose has happened to me 3 times. Each time, while eating rice, I accidentally breathed at the wrong moment, causing me to choke and forcing rice into my nasal passages. I kept sneezing and blowing my nose until the rice eventually came out. Now, I am very cautious whenever I eat rice. Story 129. I have never been an active player or part of a team in school, but when I play for fun, I usually perform well or improve during the game. Story 130. Even though I am autistic and this is supposed to be difficult for me, I have a natural clinical eye when it comes to psychological matters. I can observe the details in a person's appearance, behavior, and speech, relating those details to a personality aspect. I am not flawless, but more often than not, my deductions are accurate. Story 131. I am skilled at gathering details in any environment fairly rapidly. For example, I might count how many pickup trucks I see during a drive or note the types and colors of clothing. I typically observe how people move and try to determine the control in their movements. I have a method where I do not directly ask people questions. Instead, I make an observation, often intentionally incorrect, that encourages someone to respond, and then I gently disagree to prompt them to provide more evidence of their correctness. For instance, me, wow, you must be doing really well at your job. Them, no, times are tough. Me, no way that's true, your clothes are too nice. Them, I'm struggling to even make rent. My apartment is in a costly area, and business is slow right now, so I'm dipping into savings, and so on. I engage in this behavior because my anxiety makes every interaction feel like a game that I am merely playing along with to function. My life has not been easy, so I find comfort in the ability to quickly convey information while also being aware of moods and potential dangers. Story 132. Being funny has been a part of my life since childhood. It feels effortless, and I have been told this my entire life. It just comes naturally. Story 133. I am unsure if this meets the request, but I was gifted with the ability to see systems and patterns in everything around me. I used to tell people that if they couldn't see the pattern in something, they were standing too close to it. There are interactive patterns within patterns, much like the fractal images you can find online. They are endlessly interesting if you look at them the right way. I developed a type of transformational logic that allowed me to predict and later design information technology systems that would translate business and data network flow demands into resilient, highly available infrastructures. This was a fairly narrow but successful use of my ability. I had fun doing this most of the time, and the redundant high availability networks I designed really satisfied my compulsive tendencies. Beyond information technology, I can see continual patterns emerge in everything around me if provided with realistic input and viewpoints. I know this sounds cryptic and unusual, but you would need to experience it to truly understand. Everything is connected. Everything is related. Energy streaming as sunlight from our sun will eventually affect every aspect of your life, top to bottom. Energy transforms into a continuous variation of different forms and effects. If I am not overly stressed or too energized from caffeine, I can visualize this process in a lot of detail. When I was a software developer, I would go on 16 and 20-hour coding sessions, producing highly detailed and interrelated code constructs. It was satisfying to build that kind of work, even if it was difficult for others to recognize my accomplishments. In retrospect, it was a form of self-indulgence. I worked to make a living, but often it didn't need to be as elegant and complex as it turned out. Most of what I built back then was seen by very few people. I am sure there are many individuals like me, capable of handling patterns and logical constructs. On the flip side, I struggle with spatial awareness, and navigation tools are essential for me. Additionally, I was born without any form of athletic ability. Story 134. Humor. I find myself great at joking, and I always notice that I tend to make people laugh even when I'm not trying. I can respond to someone in a sarcastic or literal way, and they think it's hilarious. I receive comments like, "How did you even come up with that?" Even though I didn't realize that what I said was actually quite funny and clever. I love making people laugh, but sometimes I don't realize that I'm the one making them laugh. Story 135. I tend to attract talkative people, even though I'm quiet. Over the years, I realized they are looking for an outlet, someone willing to listen to their woes or share the amazing things they have been up to. I mostly keep to myself, but whenever I need someone to talk to, everyone disappears. So, I think I'm good at listening. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.